Hello the internet, my name's Laura and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that I haven't really done before. I was going to do my top 5 favorite houseplants video, and then I realized that, that's all well and good. I'll probably still do that video at some point, but I wanted to do a video that was basically like the top 5 plants that I finally nailed the conditions for. Or at least it seems like I've nailed the conditions for. Like, they weren't doing all that great, and then now they suddenly seem to be growing well. And so I want to show them to you so that then I can explain what I did, and then maybe if you're having trouble with a similar plant, you can then, figure it out, or, help. It can help you. That's the idea anyway. Okay, so I've got all the plants here. You can probably see a couple of them, so it's, not meant to all be a surprise, but we're gonna start with this guy here. So this is my Maculatta Whitey. I picked this up from a Wegmans way back, when the Costa Farms thing was just kind of, when Costa Farms was doing its trending tropicals, but it was still kind of new, and I just ran into this, display at a Wegmans, my God, it was probably 2 years ago, around the Thanksgiving. I was actually visiting family, and I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, Begonia Maculatta Whitey, I know that this is kind of a rare plant, people want it, and it is not easy to get. It was much harder to get back then, obviously. But anyway, I picked one up because I was like, it's a begonia. I like begonias. It's a cane begonia. It should be pretty easy to grow. And then I can possibly sell some of the cuttings, and make back a little bit of money, on it. Because it was, at the time, it was like $20. And I was like, oh my God, it's expensive. But anyway, so I got the plant. Brought it home, and it hated me. I mean, we're talking, the new leaves would come in and be dead. I'm pretty sure that I overwatered it at one point and gave it root rot. And just, plant did not like me. So at one point, I literally just cut it completely back. I took all of the cuttings, I stuck them in water. They grew pretty well in water. But the main plant was just kind of doing crappy. And then at one point I got my grow tent. It was like $50 grow tent, the little one that's the stupid metal shelves and you put the plastic cover over it. Not very expensive. I got that and I stuck it in there and it kept doing terribly. It kept doing terribly. And I left it in there and we played around with watering it and how much water it wanted. And I finally got to the point where I realized, okay, number one, I'm watering it too much, because even though it's a begonia and it likes to be, it doesn't like to dry out super a lot, apparently these guys are super prone to root rot. Which is why, I think at one point I gave it root rot and then I managed to save it. And anyway, I kept it in there. I started watering it more sparingly. And then it being in the grow tent, it didn't need a lot of water in general. And then a couple of months ago, it started, I looked in there and noticed these huge, beautiful leaves coming out. And I'm looking at those leaves and I'm going, oh, that's why people like this plant. They're not quite to the size they were when I bought it. I mean, it came with some big leaves on it. But the plant itself seems to finally actually be doing pretty okay. I've got these guys over here. There's some bits of it that are still, I still have these dried out bits on this stem here that I'm gonna have to look into. But for the most part, this plant is doing a lot better and it's starting to look really, really good. So definitely with this plant, it apparently really wants, because it wasn't even that when my humidity dropped in my house because of winter, like it started suffering. It had just been suffering all the whole time. And it took a couple of months of being in the grow tent before it started perking up. But apparently this plant like really, really wants its humidity. I don't know exactly how much it would like, because that tent is unfortunately at close to 100% humidity all the time, which is starting to grow. It's starting to grow some mold on the inside of it, so I'm gonna have to clean it out before too long. But anyway, you know, I can't say, oh, you want to be at least 70% humidity or anything like that. Just know that this plant probably wants humidity. If you're growing it great in your house, then more power to you. But this plant did not like me for the longest time, and it's finally starting to look really, really good, and I'm just really, really happy about that. So, if you are struggling with your Maculata Whitey, you might think about some kind of a grow tent, or like putting it right next to your humidifier or something like that, so that you can get it all the humidity that it needs, and then it will hopefully perk up. I can't guarantee it, but you know, that is what worked for me. So, Begonia Maculata Whitey. Okay. The other one that you might be seeing here is my Calathea orbifolia. This plant went through some stuff when I got it. And it had, you know, a decent number of leaves. It had like 3 or 4 leaves on it when I got it. They were about this big, and I knew that it was going to need to go in the grow tent like really quickly, but like I put it in there and all the leaves had basically died off. All of these leaves are brand new leaves, but at a certain point it started to put out new growth, and they're coming out beautiful now, and like they're coming out really nice. And this newest leaf here is actually looking pretty big. So this one definitely just did not really like being in low humidity. And it took a whole lot of time for it to get to a point where it had acclimated to my space. Even inside the grow tent, like the leaves were dying in there, and I'm like, well, I don't know what else I can do. It's in there, you know, am I overwatering it? Am I underwatering it? You know, whatever. But the leaves died off, and then it grew these new leaves, and now it is doing, I mean, I would say it's doing pretty well. And I don't mind that it's not huge. You know, it gives me the leaves that I think are really, really pretty, and I am happy with that. So, humidity for this guy, you know, again, like the Maculata, if you're growing it outside of a humidity tent and you're doing great with it, then wonderful. But if you're struggling with this plant, humidity is probably your answer, or at least one of the answers. Okay, we're going to go to a slightly more, so I was having a lot of problems with my begonias. I got this plant, and it was big and beautiful, and it lived all right for a while, and then it started declining, and it started going crispy on the edges, and I was like, okay, it must be a humidity thing. So I stuck it in my grow tent, and I was like, okay, it'll be in the grow tent, and it seemed to be happy in there. It started growing new leaves, and they were really great. And then the new leaves started to get these little marks on them as well. And I was like, I don't know what to do. You know, like the plant, it's in all that humidity. It's just it's not growing well. It's like the leaves are coming out and then they're dying. Like, you know, I don't know what to do about this. And then I saw this thing where Emma Greenwood said that she was moving all of her plants over to terracotta because of the, you know, it leaches out the water so that it doesn't stay wet as long. And I had remembered that I had watched a YouTuber named Dea for a while, where she kept all of her begonias in terracotta, and I had asked her about it one time because I was like, I thought they liked being, you know, super moist all the time. She's like, My grandmother kept them in terracotta, and so I keep them in terracotta, and I just water them enough that it doesn't matter. You know, like I water them enough that they don't dry out and they don't die. And I had kind of put that in the back of my head. But then it suddenly occurred to me that maybe I was overwatering my begonias. Because, you know, I know that they like to stay moist, and so they weren't dying. Like, they weren't getting root rot and just straight up dying, but they were not being happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, just water them more. And that wasn't helping. And so I took a whole bunch of my begonias and put them in terracotta. And the soil was like wet. Like, I was definitely overwatering my begonias. And I put them in terracotta, and it took a couple of days, but the pot finally started drying out. Like, it had leached enough of the water out of here. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll wait, you know, a couple of weeks and see how it goes, and then I can mention it on my channel. Well, this plant is already doing better. Like, I can already tell that this plant is doing better. And I'm so happy because this is one of my favorite begonias that I have. I just love the coloring on them. They're just so pretty. And so I'm just, like, my cane begonias still aren't doing much. Those are the other ones that I put into terracotta to kind of let them dry out, because I think that might be the problem. They're still struggling a little bit. But this guy, like I said, I can already tell it's doing better, and I don't have it in the grow tent anymore. I brought it out of all that humidity and brought it out here, and it's been perfectly fine. So it definitely was not a humidity thing. It was, I'm pretty sure I was overwatering it. So if you have, and I'm not positive about this, because I said for a long time that when a plant crisps, I don't know why I can't say the word, crisps. It's a good thing I'm not British. On the edges like this, that it's a humidity issue. And I'm starting to realize that that's not necessarily the case. It can be a humidity issue, but that's almost, I think it might be when the whole leaf, like all around it just kind of shrivels up, right? These wet spots here that I have specifically only gotten on begonias might actually be from overwatering. I'm saying that I have not had this plant out for a really long time to be able to test and see how it's doing. Man, it is drying out so much faster in this pot, which is kind of the point. But if you are having problems with your begonia getting these just like spots where the leaf gets all soft and then it like dries out and crisps off, check and see maybe if the soil isn't too wet. Like, it isn't necessarily have root rot, but the water might just be too wet and the plant is unhappy about all of the water. So anyway, this guy is doing great, and I'm looking forward to him like growing really, really big again, because it was gorgeous when I got it and then I ruined it, and so I'm hoping I can bring it back. It's doing okay for right now. So, but that is, and this is, I self-named this begonia watermelon, because they kind of look like red with the green and the white on the outside. My friend came up with that actually, but that's what I call it now. So I don't know if that's the actual name of it, but I call it begonia watermelon. So, okay, this guy. So this is a Sonarilla. I'm pretty sure I'm getting closer on that pronunciation now. I ordered this plant and knew that it needed to be in, I don't want to take it out of there because I'm pretty sure it's rooted to the bottom here. It's put roots all out in here, so I don't want to pull it out right now. But this plant is just absolutely gorgeous. And I just stuck it in here. And I've watered it maybe twice since I've gotten it. And it just stays wet in there. And it has been doing gangbusters. And this, I was worried about getting this plant because it had high requirements or whatever. Apparently the only thing this needs is to be in a humid place and not dry out, because I basically keep this lid on it all the time. And it has just grown like this. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. I'm actually planning on doing a project with this before too long, because as you can see, it's kind of outgrowing this little terrarium. And it's really like, it's really leggy down here. Like, oh, you guys can't see. See, the stem there is super long before it gets to any leaves. And so I want to see what I might be able to do about trimming it back and making it shorter and all that kind of stuff. But like, sometimes I'm like, when people say that a plant needs humidity, like, sometimes they really do mean it. And a lot of the rare plants, I think the reason that they're more rare is because they're harder to take care of, and they need some sort of a terrarium, or they need some sort of a humidity place. And you don't have to spend a whole lot of money in order to get something like that. Like, this was a drink container, a glass drink container that I got at one point. I might have paid 30 bucks for it. I have my glass bowl. I have my glass bowl that I got off of, no, that one I have a glass bowl that I got from the local Goodwill that's basically like one of those fish bowls that you saw, you know, and they had goldfish in it. And I use that for my carnivorous plants, and that's great. And that cost me like 12 bucks at the Goodwill, you know, like, so you can find stuff like this and possibly be able to take care of some of these more difficult to take care of begonias, or plants in general, because this is a Sonorilla. And basically all you have to do is make sure you keep your humidity up and keep them keep them nice and moist. So, just saying, if you're really worried about, you know, one of those begonias that you just think is gorgeous, but people are like, oh my gosh, it needs high humidity. You know, you don't need a super fancy, like, terrarium case, or like that IKEA grow cabinet that I'm sure is I have not looked at the price of it, but I'm sure it's like over $100. You don't need all that, right? You can get, now it's difficult to get something large, but you know, there are ways to do it where it's not going to break your bank. So if you really, you really want one of those more difficult, higher humidity loving plants, you know, just go for it, you know, like, find something that's going to hold your humidity in and go for it. Okay, and then the last plant that I have is my adorable little Stromanth Trio Star. I got this plant, and it suffered for a really long time, and I was like, oh, okay, it needs humidity, so it went into my grow tent with my Orbifolia. And it didn't do any better. The new leaves that were coming in actually started dying. And I have it in this pot because I think this is a really pretty pot for it. But, and I was like, you know, it's just ugly. The leaves are ugly. The leaves are coming in and they're dying. And what I realized was this plant had spider mites on it. And so I rinsed it off. I sprayed it. I'm checking for spider mites now because it's been a little while since I have done anything with it. I might need to spray it again. These guys are spider mite magnets. But when I took care of the spider mites, this guy started growing really, really great again. Like, all the new foliage came in, and it's just gorgeous. And I don't have it under a grow light. I have it over there. It's kind of near my window. It gets some light from my grow light, but it's pretty far away. It's not in any kind of a humidity tent. And it's doing great. A lot of the damage that you see on here is from, like, this is from when it still had spider mites and it was getting acclimated to my house and all that kind of stuff. All these other leaves here that are looking really nice, and those are all the new ones. And this plant has actually been doing really, really well. It does look like it's got spider mites again, though. It's been a couple of weeks. I feel like it's been at least a month. You know, I can handle spraying this for spider mites once a month, you know. But So it's very possible that if you're having trouble with a plant and you just can't figure out why, um, you know, if that particular plant is prone to a specific type of insect, even if you don't see them, because I mean, spider mites, these guys don't have any like edges. You know, like on alocasia, you know, they make their little webs across the little things on the alocasia, and you can like see the web. This guy, I never saw any of the web. It was just, oh, there's damage on here. And then if you look really a lot on some of these leaves, you can kind of see like the little white dots, right? So even if you can't see pests on your plant, if they're taking damage and it like, you know, like you can tell like underneath there where that's just not a nice clean leaf. Like, see how much nicer the back of that one looks as compared to that? You know, that's insect damage. So, but this guy, doing great now, and I know I need to keep up on top of the spider mites. And like I said, they say this guy needs a lot of humidity. I have not had any problems with it. I've even been watering it with tap water. I don't think my tap water is all that bad, but I've been watering it with tap water and it's been doing great. So, you know, this is why you experiment with plants, right? Because, you know, I could have been like, oh, it must be the humidity, or I was like, it must be the humidity, and I had it in my grow tent, and then it still wasn't growing well, right? And I had to look at that and be like, okay, then what else could it be? And that's when I finally found out about the spider mites, and then it started doing better, and it was fine outside of the grow tent. You know, like, taking advice from people is great, but at the same time, you still have to try it out, right? And if something clearly isn't working, then you really should try something else. You know, and it just takes an eye for it, right? Like, you know, because some people who are like, oh my gosh, my plant is dying. And this is a thing that I used to do too. Something would happen with one of my plants, like they'd get bugs or a leaf would start dying, and I'd be like, oh my God, what's wrong? And I would like change the potting, and I would like change their location, and I would like suddenly do all this stuff, right? Like immediately. And then I would slow down and be like, maybe I should research this. Maybe I should look into what actually could possibly be wrong. Like, you don't want to have those, you know, knee-jerk reactions. I think the more you take care of plants, the more you realize it's not really life or death in the moment, like, ever. You know, they're plants, they don't do anything all that fast. I mean, unless you've been ignoring them and you suddenly come back and it's like covered in webs, you probably don't have to act like super fast. So, you know, just learn what your plants are telling you, and you're going to make mistakes. I made mistakes with all of these plants except this one that I just kind of stuck right into a terrarium and left it, and it just happened to grow right like that. But I made mistakes with these other 4 plants. I've made mistakes with plenty of other plants that are in here. You know, and we're living and learning. So, I hope that this video helped you a little bit, and I hope you enjoyed this video, obviously. You know, seeing my plants and seeing that they're doing better. Super great. If you like this video, go ahead and like this video. If you want to see more of my videos, I'm probably going to do a top 5 house plants pretty soon, because I just have to decide who are my top 5. It's so hard to pick. If you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe, stick around. Got other videos, they're pretty cool. I mean, people like them, they seem to. But thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.